Japan 15 up against All Blacks 15 this weekend, folks. You're going to get a bunch of games between now and the World Cup, which kind of feel like warm-up games. This one is certainly one of them. A bunch of Japanese internationals, plus a few uncapped guys, up against 6 All Blacks and a bunch of fringe All Blacks from kind of Super Rugby duties having just finished. We'll go through the two squads. There's no betting odds for this one because it's not a proper test match. There's no kind of head-to-head history between the sides, but we'll go through the squads and you guys can let us know your thoughts. It is on at Tokyo, 5 p.m. local time, so that's 8 p.m. over here in NZ. 8 p.m. is a good time to sit down with a beer. If you want to check out me having a beer at a beer museum in China the other day, which was, I don't want to call it a scam, but it was certainly not what I expected. Check that video out. It's on 2 Cents on Tour. Totally separate from this one, but hopefully something a little bit interesting. But, front row for the Japanese 15, Miller, Horikoshi, and Kakinaga. Miller and Horikoshi, if they were joined by like a Ku or an Ivalu, would essentially be a starting Japanese front row, or a test front row anyway, but Kakinaga is in there at tight head. Then the locks, James Moore and Amato Fakatava. I don't think we've seen Fakatava play for Japan before, but I know he's been playing in the top league over there, or the Japanese League One, for a wee while. Obviously, if he's qualified for Japan, he must be. His profile on his Japanese club lists him as a Lucy, but I don't know what kind of season he had. I just know he's around 6'4", 6'5", so decently tall timber, but not kind of like, he's not a real kind of 2 meter plus giant. And then James Moore played for Japan in 2021, but I don't think we saw him play last year. He kind of either was injured or fell down the pecking order. So one of the problems with not having the Sunwolves is I kind of lose a little bit of touch with some of the Japanese guys. The back row, Michael Leach will be the most familiar name to most guys, having been a servant of Japanese rugby for many years now, a few World Cup campaigns, and he's captain at 6. And then you've got Shota Fukui at open side, and then Makisi at number 8. Now, Makisi at number 8 has played a couple of tests for Japan, but he's tends to be behind Himeno, who is just a beast, and Tatafu, who is also a large human. So good to see him get a run at number 8. And then Fukui, I don't think is capped, but he's 23 years old. Plays for the Wild Knights, who had a pretty good run in the old League One. So potentially an emerging talent from Japan. Saito and Matsuda at 9 and 10 is pretty familiar. I don't think we saw Matsuda play 10 for Japan last year. I think it was 2021 that we last saw him, because it was all Lee, I think, for those games against France last year. So I don't think Matsuda was there, but good to see you back. Nakano and Riley is a pretty stable midfield. And then Masarewa, he's an excitement machine. If you've watched Sunwolves rugby, you'll know all about Samisi Masarewa. And then Nakabula is on the right wing, another guy who served a few years in Japan. And then Matsushima is another one of the kind of more familiar guys who lit up the last World Cup, is there at fullback. The bench, Horier, also very familiar after spending a few years in Super Rugby in Melbourne. Halasili and Ku make out the front replacements. Cornelson and Jimeno, two very useful lock and loose forward replacements to bring on. And then Nagara, Ogura, and Osada are your back replacements for the All Blacks 15. As I mentioned, 6 All Blacks, but none of them in the front row. Numia, Riccitelli, and Ainsley, that is your front row. And they'll be looking to get on top. But like I mentioned, Miller and Horikoshi, these guys have been playing international rugby as of last year. So will be no pushovers by any means. Akoi, I'm excited to see how he gets a go. He plays in that Chiefs team, which is pretty stacked with the likes of Brodie Retallick and Tupou Vati there. So sometimes struggles for a bit of game time, but I reckon he's got some potential to kind of keep on tracking well with his New Zealand rugby career. So I'm hopefully going to see a big game out of him. He's alongside Quentin Strange. Akira Ioane is one of your All Blacks guys in this All Blacks 15. He's at blindside alongside Karifi and Leo Willie. I'm a little bit gutted for Harmon, who is in the 23 but only on the bench. He is one of the co-captains, so I'm assuming when the other co-captains co-captain comes off, then Harmon will kind of swap with the leadership role. But Akira certainly needs to have a big game, doesn't he? If his stocks have kind of dropped this low. Karifi alongside Harmon had a pretty good season. Just needs to watch the penalty count. And Leo Willie in that Crusaders lineup wasn't the biggest name, but geez, he was bloody good. So another guy who's just putting his hand up for extra honours, isn't he? Brad Weber is the other co-captain at 9. I do feel hard on him. that he's only with the All Blacks 15. I say only, given he's, been with the All Blacks for years now, but still, I don't think he's cracked 20 caps because he's just been perennially behind TJ and Aaron. Peter Fitter is there at 10 as well, so fingers crossed for him. He can have a good game after just kind of squeezing into the All Blacks squad proper last year with that kind of Blues team flying high. He's back out at the moment. Then Goodhue could certainly use a good run. He is off to France next year, but if he's going to play himself back into All Blacks contention, obviously needs to stay fit, needs to have a good game. Nankivell is another one of you guys off, although doesn't have the All Blacks experience at 13, and then Sullivan, that's Balin, Nana Sotoro, and Love make out the back three. So it is it's an attacking-minded looking squad that McDonald's picked. Bench-wise, you've got Thompson, Norris, and Rakita Stones as your front replacements. Suafo and Harmon as your other forwards, and then Fakatava, that's Folau Fakatava, Brett Cameron, and Sam Gilbert there as well. So there is a little bit of a kind of Highlanders connection with the likes of Gilbert, Fakatava, Harmon, all on the bench. But yeah, it should be an interesting one, folks. As I said, we are kind of getting into that World Cup theme of things. Obviously, we've got the Rugby Championship to get started first, and then we will get some genuine Rugby World Cup warm-up games. But this certainly feels like one of them with a bunch of internationals on both sides. You guys let us know your thoughts. Do you think this Japanese side, with a bunch of internationals starting, certainly more internationals than the All Blacks 15 have got, will be too good at a sold-out home ground in Tokyo? Or do you think this All Blacks 15 side, with a bunch of guys looking to squeeze their way into the All Blacks proper, will do a job? You guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.